Everyone, hi, this is Gwen from My Spiritual Butterfly. I'm a transformational life coach, Reiki Master Teacher, and I'm really excited tonight to be bringing you the wonderful Mike Simon. I'm waiting for him to join me. Mike is a Somatic Coach, so we're going to have a lot of fun and interesting conversation tonight about somatics. It's something that's come up quite a lot recently, the somatics, vagus nerve, that kind of thing. The body holds the key. And so it'd be nice to kind of look into it a little bit further and just understand exactly what it's about so we can decide if it's for us, if it's not for us, if it's something we want to explore a little bit. But yeah, I'm really excited for this today. Just waiting for Mike to come on. We've only just started, so hopefully he'll be joining us soon. Just saying hello to everybody here. Hi, Kate. Okay, lovely to see you. We've got Micah. Hi, Micah. Who else has joined us? I'm sure I saw Dion. Dion, hi, Dion. Lovely to see you here. Hi, Danny. Lovely. Welcome, welcome, guys. Good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah, so make sure I'm hoping you've got your questions ready for Mike when he comes on. Yeah, but I'm really excited to sort of talk to him about this. I haven't done an Instagram live for a while, but every now and again someone kind of like piques my interest and like, yeah, I really want to bring this to you guys as well as ask questions for myself as well. So great. Mike is here. Okay, Mike, I don't know if you need to request to join. I can see that you've come up. Well, let's hope it works. Okay, guys, just bear with us. So hopefully Mike is going to be coming through. Did that work for you, Mike? I don't know. Oh, yeah, it's worked. Yay.
It's worked.
Welcome, welcome. Oh, thank goodness. It's so funny trying to do this every time. I struggle a little bit. But welcome, Mike. So lovely to have you here tonight. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
agreeing to join me.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. But yeah, we're really excited to kind of hear from you. Those of you who don't know Mike, Mike is, as I said, a somatic coach. He is also a dancer, choreographer, and he's a Reiki practitioner as well. And that's how I got to know you, because you came with me to learn your Reiki 1, Reiki 2.
Yeah.
And I always remember your energy, Mike, always really kind of, someone else described you as this as well, very kind of gentle, very grounded energy that you have, and very authentic. And I love that,
Thank
just
you.
very honest about what you know, what you don't know. And it's just, yeah, so balanced. So it's amazing to sort of have you here. To bring you here and bring you to my community as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've got a ton of questions for you, as you know. But I think, you know, we've spoken before about this, and it's just such a lovely organic conversation to have.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone watching, please feel free to pop your questions in the comments as we go, and then we'll be sure to kind of pick those up as well. But yes, welcome, Mike. Welcome. So I guess if we could start by just finding out a little bit more about you, really,
Mm-hmm.
particularly your journey to becoming a somatic coach. Yeah, just introducing yourself.
Yeah. So yeah, just repeating on what was shared earlier. Thank you first and foremost for
You're welcome.
inviting me onto this live. It's been a while since I've done a live, so
Oh, yeah, me too.
good. I have to adjust to the vibe. But
Yeah.
yeah, my name's Mike. As Gwen has introduced, I'm a somatic coach, also Reiki practitioner. Probably share a little bit more about that as we navigate the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But my journey into somatics, every time I get asked that question, which is quite frequently, I always try my best to get the timeline right. It's not
Mm-hmm.
always correct, but the order is usually pretty similar. So around like the pandemic, I think like the first sort of part of the pandemic that we had, I was experiencing quite a lot of, as well as the COVID situation, and that being quite life changing for many people, of course, in various different ways. I also was navigating some challenges with my personal life with regards to the relationship with my son's mum, etc., etc. So there was that was taking place. So I'm going to kind of try my best to piece it together. That was taking place in my life. At the same time, I believe there was like the Black Lives Matter resurgence and things going on in that area. And I was also finding that there was a lot of people in my circles that were, it just felt like there was more people in my circle coming to me to ask for advice or ask questions or just have a general conversation. And I found myself offering advice, offering something to them. So that really started to pique a lot of curiosity in me, because I've always felt I'm good with my words or, giving advice and so forth, but I didn't really have any awareness of where I might be able to channel that in terms of like a practice or coaching. I didn't even know coaching or life coaching as it is existed. So there was this big rabbit hole that I found myself going down, where I was exploring options of maybe going into the legal field, because I went to family court, basically. That's the challenge I was experiencing. Went to family court with regards to my son moving country. Of course, I didn't want him to move country. His mum wanted to move country with him. And I was opposing that. I was against it. So it ended up that we went to family court, which was extremely stressful, very challenging. And that, along with the other things I experienced at that time, really shook me up. So went through that experience. And after that, I was like, I want to help men. I want to help men that might have gone or might be going through something similar to what I experienced with regards to court. I paid for legal support. I represented myself in court itself, but a lot of the behind the scenes things, I got support for that. And it was challenging, and everywhere I kind of looked to, there was information, but it was a lot of doing your own work. So I was thinking, how might it be for me to help other men that might be going through this? I explored that, navigated it. It didn't fully resonate with me. I then considered therapy, becoming a therapist in some capacity. But then I was like, I'm not too sure if I want to study for 3 years to not like it. I was very unsure. There wasn't any certainty. At the time, I was doing extra shifts at Domino's or maybe Pizza Hut, but I was delivering pizza in the evenings alongside my full-time job. I was having conversations with my partner, expressing how I was feeling, looking at sort of the different avenues I might go down. In the end, somehow I stumbled across life coaching. So on my evening shifts, whilst I was delivering pizza, I was plugging in onto Spotify for these life coaching podcasts, just consuming them one after the other, and getting more insights into what this realm of life coaching is about. So I did a short course online, a self-guided course. It was like $50 to kind of dip my toes in the water to see if it is something that I'm actually going to enjoy and can maybe pursue a little bit further. So I did that. I was like, yeah, this sounds interesting. I really like it. Changed my profile on Instagram and transitioned. I had a subscription box. So I had a men's subscription box where I was catering grooming products to men to cultivate conversations around men's mental health. So everything sort of was tying in, but I didn't know where I was going. There was just loads of little pieces or loads of little, for instance, like dots, and the pathways in between them weren't matching up cognitively, at least anyway. They weren't matching up for me. So I transitioned from there, was doing the life coaching, put myself out there as a coach, although I didn't feel fully confident. And I believe that's when I came across you. So the story behind connecting with Gwen is that I had a conversation with my partner. Can't remember exactly what it was about, but it was a very highly charged emotional conversation, more so from her part in terms of what she was sharing. And I felt everything. Like we embraced in a hug, and as we embraced, I felt everything. And I remembered it so clearly because that was the catalyst. I think I probably shared on the first session. That was the catalyst for me reaching out and trying to understand like energy and protection and how do I guard myself. And the reason why I was thinking in that way is because I was like, if I'm going to be helping people via coaching, and they might come with something that could be hold a lot of weight behind it, could be quite challenging for them to share, and I'm on the receiving end of that, I don't want to be in a position where I feel overwhelmed by what they're sharing. It just didn't feel right for me to be in that position, despite the fact I never had experience with that taking place. So I took to Google after that situation. I was just astounded by what was taking place. I ran and got my sage. I was like, I don't know what's going on here. Like, I was crying. I was like, I just didn't know how to deal with what I was experiencing in that moment. Came across yourself. I was like, yeah, I'm booking it. I'm doing this. Haven't heard about Reiki, not too much, but this just feels right. It definitely was right. I'm glad that I found you and that, I went down the pathway that I did. So stay with me, guys, on this, because I know it can feel a bit all over the place, but it all comes together. So did the Reiki training, and then I was still seeking for something else. I was like, okay, I've got the life coaching self-guided course, but because it was self-guided, I didn't feel confident to really call myself a coach. It was a very new space for me to operate in. So there was a lot of missing pieces still. So from there, I was exploring, okay, maybe I could do a master's in dance movement psychotherapy because I've got my dance background. And again, I still wanted to help people in some sort of capacity, but I wanted to enjoy it. There had to be some enjoyment behind it. Again, I looked at that and I was like, 3 years, I would have to leave my full-time job. I'm not sure. Investing financially, investing time-wise, I just didn't know. And then I started looking at like more embodied sort of work. And a lot of the websites I was looking on, they wasn't resonating with me. They were more mature white women. I wasn't seeing much representation for black men. So it just wasn't really resonating. And then I stumbled across the school where I studied at as a somatic coach, which is the Somatic School. And I studied there for 7 months and got my qualification to become a qualified body-oriented somatic coach. So that's kind of like how the pieces sort of came together. And at that intersection where I found the Somatic School, things started to make more sense. It was like, okay, Reiki, energy, my movement background, somatics, it's about the body, the coaching. That's where it all started to come together. And I was like, okay, like I haven't just been running, walking through like a jungle, moving trees out of the way, like not knowing where I'm going. All of this exploration and curiosity led me to where I got to then, which is finding out about the somatics, understanding about it a bit more. So yeah, I mean, that's the long story. There's probably loads of other little nuances in between, but that's essentially how I found myself where I am now, as a qualified somatic coach, a qualified, Reiki practitioner. Whilst I was very transparent with yourself. It was never to practice, to be a practitioner, with Reiki. It was more so for myself, to gain an understanding and to embed the practice in my own developing practice. And that's what I've been doing. And I'm grateful for the connection with yourself and, the guidance and support from, it was nearly 2, maybe even 3 years ago now.
I think almost 3 years.
Yeah, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my journey into the realm of somatics.
Yeah, it's an amazing journey. Thank you for sharing. And I think a lot of us have been through that, where we've tried different things, thinking that we're just wandering around aimlessly and picking something from there, something from there. But you can see now they all are actually cohesive. And is it Steve Jobs that says we connect the dots
Backwards.
looking back? Yeah, backwards. So that's kind of what's happened.
Exactly.
And it's made you more well-rounded. But even Reiki, if you think about it, I mean, we're going to be going into what somatics is in detail anyway, but we're connecting with the body when we're doing our self Reiki. We are coming back to the body in a spiritual way. So it's all interlinked. But yeah, it's an amazing journey that you've been through. But I'm really glad that you found Reiki in amongst it as well. And have found your calling, really. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, Mike. So yeah, if you can just elaborate a little bit more on what somatic coaching is, so we all have a good idea about that.
Yeah, for sure. So whenever this question is asked, I always start off by distinguishing kind of what it is not, because I think that's important. So first of all, somatics, derives from the word soma, meaning of the body. It's the Greek word soma. So it's related to the body. Somatic coaching, life coaching, which often tends to be a lot more conceptual, more mind-based, depending, obviously, it varies. There are exceptions, but generally, the traditional way of coaching. Somatic, body-oriented coaching is inclusive of the whole individual. So it's not just the conceptual, it's the embodied experience as well. So, and also to distinguish between somatic therapy or somatic experiencing, which is something in and of itself, is very different. Maybe not very, but it's different to coaching. So from the therapeutic lens, people are often more aware of somatic therapy. However, from the coaching perspective, we're working with the present moment and looking forward. Of course, some of your past might emerge in a session, but it's not my role to go back and, be thinking about how we can work with the past trauma, etc. That would be more somatic therapy or somatic experiencing. Somatic coaching in and of itself is really inclusive, it's holistic. So it's about, invitations to the individual to become more aware of their bodily experience, their sensorial experience in that present moment in relation to whatever material we are exploring. So it could be something like, I'm feeling really stuck, the client might say, I'm feeling really stuck with X, Y, Z. A simple invitation from myself to invite them to be like, okay, and what kind of stuckness is that? And where might that stuckness be showing up in your body? Could you show me? Or, could we find a shape together? So it's really being curious and invitational with regards to not just the mind and how we're thinking, but also how we're feeling. So that's, the self-awareness. People often think about self-awareness just from a conceptual lens. This is how I think. These are my values. These are my mental beliefs. And also we have the embodied self-awareness, which is how one feels about oneself. And that was coined by Alan Fogel, where he speaks about embodied self-awareness and conceptual self-awareness. So it's not just the mind, it's the whole experience. Very, like I said, very curious, very mindful, a lot of introspection, where the space is being given, a safe enough space is being created for the individual to really check in with themselves and ask themselves the question, because we have the answers, at least for the very next step, in order to move forward. And at the same time, we all have blind spots. So there will be things in our lives that we can't see because maybe we're too close to that material. And by cultivating a sense of, safe enough space, non-judgment, compassion and curiosity in the space, we can kind of observe the material from a distance, or we can even get a little bit closer to befriend the thing and kind of find out what might this part of you be sharing with you right now. So yeah, that's kind of somatic coaching. Sometimes it can be challenging to put it into words because it is so experiential. So that's, every time I say it is somewhat different, but I would say that encompasses what somatic coaching is, for me at least.
And I know that the way you coach, and I guess somatics in general, because you've got that dance background, is it just a sedentary session where the person's just sitting down and responding to those questions, or is there more involved in your way of proceeding and doing this journey?
So we definitely can move around. I'm not giving you 5, 6, 7, 8 choreography like that. That's not happening in a session unless it's invited. It may be something, but it hasn't happened. It could be explorative in the space. There's various different skills or tools that can be invited into the space. So one of them being embodying. Like I've said, we could explore what the sense of stuckness feels in your body. And I might say, how might it be to explore that? What might stuckness look like as a shape in your body? I can join in with you. Would that be okay? Yeah, okay. I'll get up as well. I'll get up, I'll get myself acquainted in my space and I'll join along with the person. It's partnership. It's not hierarchical where it's like I'm coach and you're the client and I know it. it's partnership. We're working together. It's a co-creative journey. And so, yeah, we maybe movement. I had a client, I can't remember the form, exactly how it came about, but we found ourselves in a position where it kind of felt like we was dancing. And I think I named that. I was like, it kind of, feels like we're dancing, or the client may have even named it. Can't fully remember. But what I do remember is I said, shall we? And she said, yeah. She's in her house on Zoom. I'm in my house on Zoom. And this position, we found ourselves dancing from our different, as if we was partners. It was a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
And it organically emerged. At minute one, when we came into the Zoom room, we could not have planned that at 35 minutes into the coaching session, we would be dancing with each other on Zoom. So it's very much this organicity, the unfolding. We have the ability as humans from a biological perspective to self-organize. You know what's comfortable for you when you sit down. You know that if you've got an itch on your nose, you know how to scratch that itch and that it will feel good for you when you scratch it. So we have this organic intelligence within us where we can adjust accordingly when we feel safe enough to do so. And that's very important about cultivating that sense of safe enough. My level of safety will be different to yours. So I wouldn't say that I can create a safe space for you. I can create a safe enough space. At the same time, the agency you have as an individual to say, this resonates, this doesn't resonate. Keep me right. Everything is an invitation. I'll usually check in with you and be like, are you okay for me to give you some feedback? I get a sense that this is what's going on. Are you happy to share, for me to share it with you? Or this is my bodily experience. I'm noticing something in my back area and it's coming up for me. I'm not too sure what it is, but that's just my experience. How is it for you? Yeah, like I'm, and we're co-regulating at that point, so it's very organic. It's very, we're exploring the unknown. There's things that I do know in terms of holding the space and the structure of the space to the container to ensure that we stay within the parameters of the 60 minutes. Generally, that's, the hour session. And at the same time, I don't know as much as the client doesn't know where we're actually going, despite the fact that we have some upfront cues of focus, like what we're going to explore today. But the material in the middle, it's unknown. And we just follow that. We're walking together, we're exploring it. And we always end up somewhere where we've done some good, valuable work together.
Fabulous. And I love that you say that, because I think some people may have, as you said, a misconception or an idea about what you're going to make them do. Who's going to make me move and prance and say things I don't want to say. And I love that you said it's completely organic and dictated by them. So it feels safe right from the beginning, knowing they won't be forced to do anything that they don't want to do.
Never
So
forced.
it's just wonderful.
Yeah.
I love that. Wonderful. Thank you so much. So in terms of how would you say somatic work helps us to sort of deepen our connection with our bodies and our spiritual selves?
Yeah. I'd say on there's many layers and levels. So for me, it's been very transformative in terms of how I'm able to express myself with my emotional language. And so that's been very profound for me. I feel that I've always been quite open, but when it comes to like the emotional part in terms of expressing like what am I actually feeling with somatics and the slowing down and the mindfulness and the introspection, time is given for you to really reconnect with those parts of you that you might otherwise not notice, because we live in a fast-paced world, right? So most people are always on the go, but we really slow things down even if it's just a notch, depending obviously the individual, we slow things down in a session. So it really helps to cultivate that emotional intelligence or that emotional awareness and that slowness and mindfulness for the individual to be able to check in and be like, I'm feeling X, Y, Z. So one thing that I really noticed a shift in myself is it's not a tool, a way of thinking. Let me just kind of, for simple terms, a way of thinking, self in presence. So it's kind of like a precursor to a particular skill that I might utilize in a coaching session. And it's very helpful to be able to slightly disidentify from the thing. So generally, to elaborate on this, generally, if you've had an argument with someone, you might say, I'm mad, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, which is quite consuming. When you actually look at it, it's quite consuming because you're saying that you are now the anger, you are now the frustration. If we slightly alter our language with a level of awareness, there's a part of me that is angry, or there's something inside of me that is experiencing anger right now. So what that does is that it allows us to slightly disidentify from the it and we can observe the it. So that's another thing that, at least for me, somatics has been very helpful, is like being aware of my emotions, my emotional state, notice when I'm triggered, notice when I'm more, in a lighter space, and being able to communicate that, especially in my relationship, my past relationship, the words weren't really coming out to be able to express how I was feeling in certain situations. What I would do more often than not was suppress it. I would get a bottle of wine and drink that and hope that things would just disappear, as opposed to expressing. Somatics has really helped me from an emotional perspective, and also to build a new relationship with my body. Being a dancer, I've come from a performative aspect. So the relationship with my body has been more performative and has been more, it's efforting. I'm doing something because I'm a mover. Now I've developed a different relationship with my body where I'm noticing it's not just a vessel to perform, it's also a vessel to provide insights, and it's also a vessel to feel supported by and comforted with. So there's so many different elements that somatics can be helpful for. And then from a spiritual perspective, again, it's that connection with self, whatever your beliefs are. For me at the moment, I was raised brought up in a Christian household. I identified as a Christian, went to Pentecostal church, happy clapping, speaking in tongues, all of that. I've done all of that. I no longer identify with that. But despite that, I have my own spiritual experiences where I'm like, this is not of the world. If I was to kind of frame it in that sense, especially when I was just got into the somatic space and I was working through quite a lot of the challenges that I had just experienced with the court, etc. I've got like a little area that I've carved out, like I call it my Zen den, where I meditate or do work in the early mornings or evening. And there were several times where I was in there just with my headphones on, music, and just comforting myself. And it was just so cathartic and releasing. For me, that's spiritual, because that's a connection with yourself on a deeper level, and also maybe a higher level that is beyond concept. It's beyond cognition. It's, it's a body knowing as opposed to a mind knowing.
That's amazing. Yeah. And it's I like that the higher self thing is really key, I think, really, because that's where, as you said, the body knows, but the body is also spirituality. Every part of us is spiritual. And so to deny that when there's so much information coming from our body, but just, as you said, just sitting on your own or having a spiritual practice where you do connect yourself and your body and that information sort of comes up, it is really important to do.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting to understand, because we ignore the signs that are coming from the body, and we do suppress, we hold it in the body, we stop things from coming out of the body. Emotions want to move out of the body, they want to be seen and heard, and then excuse me, and then just dissipate, once they've had that journey sort of completed. So but that time for self is important. So it was
Yeah.
interesting that it was part of your release as opposed to any other vice, which is just suppressing everything and hiding everything that you sort of previously went through. But yes, thank you so much. And just to understand then, I've changed this question a little bit, but just the difference between mindfulness and somatics, or are they very, very similar?
That's a good question.
Mm.
I feel at this moment, it might change. At this moment, I feel that mindfulness, I wouldn't say that they're different. I would say they're interconnected. I would say that through mindfulness, you connect more with your body. Because if you're just, if you're in a more, when you're in a mindful state, naturally you're slowing down a pace, which means that you can bring awareness to that which you wouldn't generally bring awareness to. So I think it's part, mindfulness and somatics goes hand in hand, because you need to bring attention and awareness to whatever you're experiencing in that present moment. And it will be challenging to do so when you're, if you're just rushing around or dysregulated, for instance. If you're not resourced in yourself on a nervous system level, you can definitely be more resourced with the right space, with the right support, with the right skills and tools to self-regulate and self-soothe. However, if you're not in a mindful space, it's a bit more challenging. There might be a bit more resistance because you're not aware of what you're actually experiencing in that moment. So yeah, I wouldn't say that they're different. I would say that it's complementary. Being mindful and somatics goes hand in hand. You can be introspective, you can check in and be like, yeah, what is that? But not what is that? What is that? Like, what am I experiencing? Yeah.
And I guess both take place without any judgment of what comes up. Is that
Yes.
key in somatics as well? In mindfulness, it's definitely a key aspect of mindfulness to, as you said, listen, be still a little bit, be curious about it. But whatever comes up, there's no judgment around it. It's just more greeted with compassion.
Yeah.
And is that an aspect of
Yeah.
somatics as well?
Yeah. No judgment. And that's coming from me, from the coachee or client and the coach as well. Unconditional positive regard. I see you, you see me. I'm not judging you. Whatever you bring into the space is welcome. Everything's welcome, because I'm not coaching the problem. I'm coaching the person. And you're not just your head, or you're not just your hand. You are everything, even the parts that you may not be aware of, even the parts that might feel a bit sticky and uncomfortable. It's whole. You are whole. You're not broken, needed to be fixed. It may feel like that sometimes. I'm not saying that it doesn't feel like that. I felt like that, and I'm not the first, and I won't be the last. But it doesn't mean that you need to be fixed. It's very much come as you are. Start. I think Pema Chodron, which is a meditation Buddhist teacher. Start right where you are, because all you have is right now. You can't start in the future. Yes, you can look into the future, and that's some of the work that we might do. Embodied visioning. So not just thinking about what the vision ahead might look like, but getting a sense of how that would feel, what smells. Working with your sensorial channels, your image channels, metaphors as well. Metaphors is a big part of somatics, and sometimes we can't necessarily find the language or the words, and how we learn anyway from young. We learn from experience, and then we find the language in school and education, often it's a different way around. But we naturally learn through experience. You touch something, oh, it's too hot. You've learned through the experience of knowing that it's too hot. So you're unlikely to do it again. However, sometimes the language is not, you can't really, I'm just feeling this thing, but I can't really put the words to it. Okay, what kind of shape is that thing? Or what kind of challenge is that? What kind of harshness is that? Oh, it's a grainy, sharp kind of harshness. We start speaking in metaphors now, and it's able to bring new imagery up in yourself, and then obviously I'll reflect back as the coach, etc., and we'll just continue to go. So yeah, there's a lot of different elements to it, but mindfulness definitely is a part of somatics.
Wonderful. Thank you. I know you specialize at the moment in helping clients who you call them hybrid entrepreneurs. So clients who are sort of, maybe they're in their full-time job or part-time job working for an employer, and they also want to, or are already starting their own business on their own. So I know you kind of specialize in working with that type of client. So how does somatic awareness kind of help them navigate that kind of transition, which can sometimes be quite emotional as well?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think I've kind of touched upon it a little bit as well. Like bringing awareness to your states where you find yourself. If you're finding yourself always triggered and in a state of fight or flight, that's probably not the best time to be making a decision, let alone a business decision. If you're finding yourself always chasing something, chasing the next followers, trying to chase potential clients and chase money, the inquiry might be, and where's this chase? What's the story behind this chase? Where might this sense of urgency be coming from? And with those sort of in questions and that deepening of that question from a somatic level as well, we can start to explore that on a bodily level, where that individual may have tried to go over that over and over and over again from a mental perspective and not really got anywhere, because we make change when we fully embody that change and take action towards it. So it's one thing setting mental intentions and thinking about the thing you're going to do, but until you've installed that's why habit buildings, you install the new habit in yourself on a bodily level. You don't just think about the habit, you have to do the thing. With somatic coaching, we can do the thing in the session. We can explore what the thing might look like. I want to put a boundary in place because I just need to protect them. Okay, we can explore what that boundary might look like on a somatic physical level, and then look at ways on how you might be able to integrate the insights that have come up for you so that you can take that from the coaching room outside. So with hybrid entrepreneurs, and just to kind of, you said it, hybrid entrepreneurs are individuals who are working a job, might be full-time, might be part-time, it might even be contractual work, but they're getting a consistent salary and they're building alongside that. They're building their business. They could have, or they might already have their business. So I support individuals to navigate what might often be perceived as mental hurdles from a more holistic perspective. So we're not just looking at the mental aspect, we're looking at how is that showing up for you? What might that be coming from? How might you like it to be different? Who are you becoming on this journey to get to wherever you say you want to get to? And what does that feel like? What might it feel like to be that person now? So yeah, there's all of these different things that can come up. And again, it's very open. There's a skill called constellations that I often use, which is just like using post-it notes to systemically put things out in a visual aspect, and also invite you to get an embodied experience of that particular thing. And it's beautiful what can emerge, because we're playing in a different field. We're not playing just on a cognitive, we're playing in this spaciousness, this liminal space, this unknown, where there's so much information and data available outside and also within, and we're cultivating and using it all.
I love that, because it very much placates the subconscious mind that may be triggering that fight or flight issue perhaps in the beginning, but by doing this rehearsal with the body and getting comfortable with it and feeling it, I can see how that actually works. So when they do come to do it in the real world, they've kind of done it already. The subconscious mind doesn't know if it's real or not when we're playing like this. It thinks it's real. So yeah, it sounds like a really beautiful thing to guide people through. I love it. Wonderful. Thank you. I'm just conscious of time, but I think are you okay for a little bit, Mike? Yeah?
Yeah, I know what time.
Yeah?
I'm good. Yeah.
Great, okay. But yeah, thank you so much for that. And so in terms of releasing energetic blockages, how does somatic coaching support people who are kind of releasing sort of real blockages in this kind of space so that they can align with their true selves, really?
Yeah. So I would take that and I would slightly reframe it from the perspective of individuals wouldn't be quite often are not coming to me with, I know I've got this blockage and I want you to help. You know, it's not, because that's not the line of work that I do. However, the work that I do is very healing. And I've come to even more sort of owning that, you know, not to say that I'm going to start calling myself a healer or anything like that, but it's very healing. It's a very healing modality. So I can share an experience that I had last week with a fellow coach. So we was exploring some material and I noticed myself with the invitation from him, I noticed myself just in this very like this rocking space, this very much just comforting rocking space. And as I stayed with that and as the space was given to me from the coach, I was just feeling my heartbeat. And it's like the heartbeat and my movement came together, and then a memory came up. And the memory was of when I was in church, and a particular song. Tears. The emotions are coming up for me now. And despite it was in the past, there was a present experience that I was having that was very healing and releasing. And so many, so many questions came up for me. Because not that I was questioning where it came from, but there was like, wow, I never came into the session with this expectation, you know? So I share that to say there's so much healing in it, in the work that we do, because we're dealing with things that are often unknown outside of our conscious awareness, those parts of us that we may have put away that could emerge and link and be like, whoa, how did we start speaking about this? And then now I'm here. But it's linked because it's all connected in the body, and the body holds stories. You know, we hold on to those things, especially, and if you are definitely holding on to something, there may be a release, but that release is not, because I'm not working with trauma release. It's not an interventional process. You know, when I'm not working on that level, I'm trauma informed, but I'm not working on that level. But of course, if it emerges, it can be very healing, very, very, very healing. You know, a lot of emotions coming up, a lot of like, whoa, a lot of kind of, I don't even know what to say because I can't find the words for that experience. But with the space for integration after the session, reflection, new insights will come up. And I hear that just through testimonials when I get people or invite people, I don't say you have to, but invite people to do a testimonial. It's like, it's very telling about the experience they had and also where they might find themselves later on if they've done the testimonial a bit later, or if I've just caught up with them, like, yeah, you know, these things have changed, etc., etc. Now that is transformative. It's transformative work. You know, coaching in general is transformative. But when you're working on these deeper layers of the individual, there's even more transformation that can take place because you're having a part to play on the trajectory of someone's life. And it could just even be one session. One session could change so much for an individual. So yeah, it's deeply healing, deeply humbling as well to work with individuals and be in a space and be like, I feel that, to acknowledge, especially if I've been working with someone for a period of time, to acknowledge their growth, because sometimes we're the worst ones to acknowledge our own growth.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so to have a supportive other person to reflect back to you how they've witnessed you grow, and to then ask, like, now I've said that, how does that land with you? How are you able to sit with the fact that you've done a great job? We started 4 weeks ago, you was here, and now you're here. So yeah, there's just so many things that it's healing. It's transformative. It's powerful work. Yeah,
it's amazing. Yeah, and it's almost like I find that with coaching as well, that even though the intention isn't to work on releasing a particular block, as you say, there is possibly a deeper intention that is coming in that session that the person's had and maybe held for years or decades. They've had this intention of something shifting in this area, and sometimes it can be quite subliminal, and deep in that subconscious. And then, as you said, you've primed that whole setup, that whole that whole session for them. To, as you say, create this lovely space where, this is a space where it can come out. So even though it's not predetermined, it wasn't even maybe on their conscious mind, there was a deeper desire or wanting to shift that part of them, and then it comes out in that moment because you've prepared that space for them. So it's lovely.
No, definitely. And like my teachers, there's a statement that or like a little quote that they share. It's like, I think it's, what's calling your attention wants your attention. So it's not coming up by chance.
No, absolutely.
We may not be able to explain it conceptually, but not everything needs to be explained on that level. But if it's calling your attention, it wants your attention, and it's coming up for a reason. So like you said, it's not predetermined. I don't have a set questions. The best questions I feel come from the client with deep listening from the coach. So if I'm hearing you and you say something, I can reflect it back to you, or I can hear the question in what you say, and that we can go, it's just that back and forth. And quite a lot of the times I'm not often speaking a lot. It's more listening and guiding and holding the space, and not only listening from an audible perspective, but listening on a bodily perspective. Again, because this is where the body comes in. We have these micro movements that we do unconsciously. We might be speaking and like saying something with our hands. I might simply invite the individual, like, oh, you might want to keep doing that. And then that's leading into a tool. They're not necessarily aware of it, but the space is cultivated, and then we can work with the hands, we can work with the body, we can work with the fact that they keep looking down and say, okay, and what's up there? What's up there? And it's just bringing the awareness to, what is up here? Why do I keep looking?
I love that.
So it's being aware holistically, not just what's coming out of your mouth, also what you're not saying. Over 70% of our communication is non-verbal. So if we're solely focusing on just the words, how much are we missing?
That's true. Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
In terms of self-compassion and self-love, so how do somatic techniques help us to cultivate more self-compassion, more self-love?
Yeah, relationship, reconnecting with the body, self-supportive touch. That is, something that I invite in as well. What kind of support might be available for you right now? Just inviting in, noticing where your body, the landscape of your body, and how it is in relation to the worlds. We're speaking about neuroception. So how our body, we've got proprioception, interoception, and exteroception. So how the world connects with us, how we find ourselves in space and time. That's proprioception. And so if you were to have your eyes closed and bring you up to your nose, this is proprioception, how you're finding yourself in the space. So when you can bring yourself compassionately and comfort yourself, you can acquaint yourself with your body and reconnect with your body, which a lot of the time we don't. No. You mean you shower yourself, and or you bathe, or you cream yourself, or you're in the gym, so you know your body from that perspective. But from this perspective that your body is supportive, your nervous system, autonomic nervous system, is doing what it knows how to do best, sensing cues of safety and danger. You don't have to think about that. It's doing it naturally, organically. That's something to be grateful for. Some people don't have full access to their body, in ways that other people do. So there's gratitude there. There's compassion, there's understanding, there's support, there's self-soothing. So there's a lot that somatics can aid with, and definitely aided me with that. It's just like, give myself a hug, man. And when you can really fit with that, again, there's so many things that can come up, because you might be like, when was the last time I embraced somebody, lovingly embrace somebody? Well, you can embrace yourself because you're here,
Fabulous. You mentioned misconceptions. I think you mentioned one misconception earlier on in the conversation. So are there any other common misconceptions that people have about somatic coaching, and how do you kind of address them in your practice?
So I think the first sort of misconception or misunderstanding, maybe that resonates a bit more, misunderstanding of what somatics is like the therapeutic pathway. Like, oh, it's therapy. And the other misunderstanding that I get is that people are like, oh, okay, so what modality do you work with? Now, I wasn't trained in modalities. So when I'm saying modalities that I believe fit under the more body-based umbrella, be like TRE, the trauma release. I can't remember what the E stands for. Then you've got EMDR, which is the eye movement, breath work, different types of breath work that you've got there. Then you've got like Feldenkrais. So you've got all of these different modalities that you could put under the umbrella of body-based somatic movement. However, I don't do any of those modalities. I would have been trained to utilize body-oriented skills as a coach. So we might focus on breath. It might be resonant to focus on breath, but I'm not a breathwork facilitator. I'm not an expert in that. So I would say that's another misunderstanding, that somatics, as a somatic coach, you might work with modalities. Now, some might do. I was even looking into some modalities that I might explore a bit further, just to have it, because I'm interested, and it might be able to, I could intertwine it into my work. The same with Reiki, we've had a conversation about that. But I would say that definitely is a misunderstanding. I'm trying to think what else. I feel above all, kind of putting somatics in a nice cushioned corner. Coaching, I think there's misunderstanding to what it actually is, especially in the space that I find myself in on Twitter and even on Instagram sometimes. And I've spoken about this a lot, that there are quite a lot of individuals who call themselves coaches. I don't know them, so I can't judge them or speak on them. But this is just my observation, where they're saying they're coaches, and it's very cookie cutter. And from my perspective, it seems a lot more mentorship and consulting as opposed to coaching. And I say that because it's like you've got individuals that have a particular lifestyle and they're almost using their lifestyle as a vessel to bring more clients in and kind of say that you can get this particular lifestyle if you follow my 6 or 7 steps. And I think there's a misconception with coaching overall that you are told what to do or someone's going to give you the answers. And that for me, that's not true. You know, even more so with somatic coaching, I'm not giving you answers. I'm not a guru. I'm not God. I'm not giving you advice. Now, of course, if you were to ask me, what would you do, Mike? I'm not going to go silent and mute and not answer you. I would ask you. And I would also say, this is my experience of what I would do. Now that you've heard that, where does that leave you? So I'm throwing it back to the client because it's about the client's experience. It's got nothing to do with me in the sense of what I've done, what I haven't done, my success or me not being successful, which is a misunderstanding. I was speaking with someone on Twitter yesterday. I was like, you know, what are you? What's the vision? You know, what are you wanting to do now that you're here on Twitter, etc., etc. It's like, you know, I want to start coaching, but I don't feel that my life is successful enough yet. So I said, are you happy for me to share some reflect something back to you based on what you said? He said, yeah. So it's nothing to do with your success, bro. Nothing to do with it. I know why you might feel like that, or I can resonate because I felt like that as well. How can I be a life coach and my life needs to get together? But it's not about me. Coaching is a skill that can be learned. And at the same time, I don't think coaching is for everyone. Just like any other domain of work is not for everyone, depending on what your intentions are. Like I said at the beginning, I was exploring coaching. I knew nothing about it. It was only until I started listening to these podcasts and I'm hearing people talk about, yeah, I've made this amount of money and that amount of money. But for me, it was never about making all the money. Yes, I do want to make money, but my way in was not because I wanted to make £100,000 a month. So let me go down life coaching because it seems like a profitable business. No. Like, and it's not easy, you know, setting up a coaching business is not, working for yourself, period, is not easy.
Yeah.
But, you know, because as coaches, as energy workers, your product is transformation. How, you know, it's challenging to package in some sense, something that isn't readily tangible. And depending on the individual, it can develop over a period of time. You know, that transformation that you invested in is not like you're just going to go into Gwen's room, have a session, and automatically come out and your life has changed. You will feel some sort of difference. Yeah, it's the same with coaching. You know, so where am I going with this now? The misconceptions. I'll talk about the misconceptions around coaching, but I think there's plenty. I think someone just made a comment. I think there's a person. I think the person-centered aspect of somatic coaching can be likened to counselling, hence potential misunderstanding. I agree. I'm not too sure what the name is, but I agree. La Brisque. I agree that there definitely is the misconception. You know, because there's that therapeutic element, and when I've explained to individuals, because of the language I use, people are like, oh, it sounds like therapy. I even had a therapist. I had a session with her. It was the first time she experienced like this kind of work, and you know, there was some emotion that emerged for her, and one of the questions she was like, "Can I cry?" I was like, "Yes, anything is work. Like you can cry, you know." And then at the end of the session, she shared that she's like, "Did I do it right?" She's from the States. Like, did I do it right? And it was this sort of like, almost, well, what I got from that was kind of like, is there an expectation for you to be a certain way with this particular work? And there isn't an expectation. You can be exactly who you are. And the fact that she's come from a therapeutic background, she said she was like, wow, this felt like therapy. It's like,
Mm.
yeah, it's not therapy, but for sure it's therapeutic. 100% it's therapeutic because you can leave a session and be like, wow, I've worked through some challenging stuff that I've been trying to work through for ages. And over the space of 60 minutes or 3 sessions, we've worked through X, Y, Z. So I definitely agree with the young lady, I believe, that made that comment about the counseling and maybe the misunderstanding around that. 100%.
Yeah, definitely. And it's, you know, what you were saying as well about people kind of feeling they have to have a successful life. Similar with Reiki, they feel they have to be healed before they can start helping anyone else. And you know, that isn't the case. You know, you start from where you are. And people relate to you more because you are going through stuff or you have been through stuff. So you have that connection, you have that empathy. And that's more important. And yeah, definitely agree that if people are entering into coaching, it is pretty frustrating to see a lot of those ads, earn 20K in one day and you can do this. And that isn't
Get
really
out of here,
why,
man.
yeah, that's not what we've been doing. We've been doing it a long time and it isn't just a pop-up thing. And then in the end, you end up letting your clients down because you can't hold space for them. You can't, as you said, bring forth what needs to come forth from them.
Yeah,
Because you're just going from a set kind of format type thing. There's no
exactly.
flexibility. There's no sudden questions that come up that have never come up before that you can easily deal with. So there is a lot more to it,
There's a lot,
which,
yeah,
yeah,
there's a
it
lot
does
more.
undermine
Yeah.
the established people out there. It does make sense,
Mm.
yeah.
And I feel that the space that we're occupying in terms of like the helping professions, Reiki, life coaching, somatic coaching, and everything in between, I truly feel I'm seeing it. Although I haven't been in the space for like decades, I'm seeing there's a shift that's taking place where people are seeking more holistic spaces, more compassion, more understanding, because we've all got things that we're going through, especially all the things that are happening in the world. And it varies depending on what part of the world that you are in. And so the spaces that people are seeking are not just what I want. You know that you kind of go to a restaurant. It's like you might go to somewhere specific and just want that particular dish. But now I feel that we're growing into the area where we're needing to hold more for the client, because whilst they might just be coming for A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H is coming up in the space. Now, if you are not equipped as a practitioner or aware or able to signpost them somewhere else to get further support, because it's not about everything that you can do, right? There's been individuals that have contacted me and I've referred them to you, you know, because they've known in terms of the Reiki, whatever, right? So it's not about you being a one-stop shop for everything. But I do feel that we are moving in a direction where space holders are needing to be more holistic, more broad, have more skills to be able to hold individuals with whatever they come. I mean, I'm saying whatever lightly because it's not just whatever. There's obviously boundaries and safeguarding and, you know, awareness. But, you know, it's not just, oh, I wanna build a £10,000 a month business. Okay, and we solely focus on business, because my friend, you might have some money challenges. You might have a whole money story that's actually the thing that's in the way of you making this £10,000 business. Now, if the practitioner is solely focused on the strategy side of things, that might be missed. You know? So yeah.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Thank you. So just a final, well, actually, one more after this as well, but just in terms of empowering your clients. So how do you empower your clients to integrate the insights they've gained from their somatic session with you into their daily lives?
Yeah. So like somatic practices might emerge. Quite often they do. But you know, even towards the end of the session with integration, it was like, okay, with the insights that have emerged for you, how might you take this out of the session? Or might there even be a symbol that is readily available to you that you can, you know, essentially kind of put your insights into? We're kind of speaking on working on a more imaginal level as well. You know, so there might be something, and that can happen, whether you can take it out of the session, integrating it in terms of journaling, you know, drawing. You know, I've had a client, several different clients, but this particular one that's come to mind, where whatever we were exploring, she wanted to draw, and she drew like a flower, and I was like, how would you like me to be in this moment? So I think I just put some music on Spotify, and she just drew. She was in her own space with me witnessing her. And then she shared it with me, and she explained it. She was able to take that with her physically. I think she put it on her fridge. And anytime she was going through something, she was able to look at that and remind herself, you know, embodied practices as well. You know, if there's a movement that sort of emerges, or a sequence that can be, you know, an embodied practice, you know, a personal somatic practice, not here's a tool here. It's organically unfolded specifically for you, specifically for you. You know, so there may be something where you might find yourself in a posture where we explored what feeling small felt like for you in your body, and we happen to get to a place where you felt a lot more empowered and strong and bold. You could create, or somatic practice could emerge from that, where anytime you feel yourself a bit low, you go to that shape and then you bring yourself here. You know, that's a somatic practice. If there's something, you know, there's so many different things. So that's how you can take things out from an embodied perspective, integrating through journaling, through drawing, recording. You know, my sessions are recorded for individuals if they want them to be, and I can send them to them. So there's so many different ways that individuals take it out, but because it's so experiential, it's already installed. It's just now the practice, if there is something to be practiced, because there might not always be. It might just be enough to be like, yo, that thing I came in with, I know what I need to do next.
Yeah.
My intentions are X, Y, Z, and these are the things I'm going to do by this point, you know? So it's, everyone varies.
Yeah.
Everyone varies.
I like that. I love the uniqueness of all of it. It's wonderful. Thank you so much, Mike. My final question to you, I've kept you really, really late, but it's been so fascinating. That's why I've just kept it going. It's just wonderful.
That's fine.
So my final question is, I just want to find out what you do on a daily basis for your own spiritual practice.
Yes. So for me, my key tenets are journaling and meditation, self-Reiki as well, not as often as I would like, but self-Reiki. I've actually started doing some Qigong.
Wonderful. I love Qigong.
Yeah. I was like, I want to implement more body movement, but with only like half an hour in the morning, because my morning practice was looking crazy. It was like meditation, self-Reiki, and then after a conversation with you, it was like, I can self-Reiki and meditate. Okay, cool, do that. And then just journaling, and then this, and then I'll try breath work. It's like, you can't do too much. So it's always evolving, always developing, but ones that always stay there: journaling, meditation. They're the main two ones. Because for me, when I was going through therapy myself, I went to therapy for 3 months. Doing all of that stuff that was going on for me, journaling was like intermediary when I was like weaned off of therapy, you know, because it kind of go from 12 weeks to just not having that. It was like, what? So throughout the process, I was journaling anyway. And I feel that if I wasn't journaling throughout the process, I might have found that transition a lot harder, if I'm being honest, to kind of have that person to speak to. But now I've got my partner as well. But now for me, my journal, you know, is that conversation. Like my pen is the vessel for the words that I may not be able to speak. Right. So yeah, journaling is a game changer for me. I've journaled for years, but I just never knew that I was journaling. And over the years, I've developed a more consistent practice for myself. And yeah, there's just so many things that emerge, like spiritually, even like cognitively, emotionally, looking back at journals, you know. So last year, I had a lot of old journals and I just felt I needed to read through some of them and get rid of some of them as well. So it was like, I don't want to hold on to this. I'm not here anymore. I don't want to hold on to this energy. So there's some that I was like, went to the park. It was a nice day. Read through some of them. I was like, oh, okay. Like that's where I was. This is where I am now. And I released them. I wanted to like do a ceremony and stuff, but I just didn't have the tools to do that properly, you know, safely.
Yeah. Safely is a thing.
Yeah, that's the main
A
thing.
bonfire.
Yeah, it just wasn't.
Fabulous.
So I was like,
yeah. Journaling is very, very powerful because I
yeah,
agree it's a spiritual thing that kind of ends up happening because you end up channeling almost from your higher self and it just transforms on the page. So you go from
yeah,
one place to another and
yeah,
soothing things and reflecting. It's just, it's a
yeah.
wonderful process. Wonderful. Thank you. I'm just going to find out if anyone has any questions. As I said, I know we've kind of overrun a
Yeah,
little bit. But
sure.
did I have a finished time? I can't remember.
No, you didn't.
I didn't. So there you go. But yeah, if anyone has any questions, I know there's quite a few. I don't know if these people are still on that I didn't get to say hello to. Blue Sky Reiki joined us tonight. Holistic Elevation, Rose Healing. Just seeing if there's any questions. Labrish K, we answered her question.
Yeah, it's
Sophia
the journey.
Sagu, yeah, that was general. Tia is my little cousin in St. Lucia. Hi, Tia. She's probably off. She's probably gone to bed. Reiki Heart Ahead. So we had quite a few really wonderful people join us, particularly from the Reiki community. But if anyone has any questions for Mike before we sign off, then do tap it in the comments now so he can answer your questions. We got Reiki by Emma saying that this live is so insightful. Thank you, Emma.
Thank you.
It's been really good, really has. Dragonfly, Lotus, quite a few people joined us tonight, Mike. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
But yeah. Maybe we've answered all their questions. But if you have any more questions, where can people find you? How can they get hold of you, Mike?
Yep. So obviously, if you're on the live, you've got my Instagram, so which is the Mike G Simon. It's also the same on Twitter, which I am on a lot more. I check both, but I'm on Twitter a lot more. So you can find me over there as well. They're the most accessible places.
Great.
Where can we find you, Dion? Yeah. So I'll repeat it quickly, Dion. So you can find me like on Instagram. Just connect with me on Instagram, send me a DM, whatever. DMs are always open. The same for Twitter. So my handle's exactly the same on Twitter at the Mike G Simon. And yeah, they're the most easily accessible ways to find me and my content and my face.
Great. Thanks, Mike. And we've got Miss T saying thank you so much. Very informative. Thank you, Miss T. Yeah, it was incredible, Mike. Really, literally echoing everything everyone said. Really insightful and very enriching to kind of listen to and understand. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of people reaching out to you to work with you because it sounds really exciting, I think, to think what can emerge from every session and that every session is unique.
Yeah.
And there is this self-discovery, self-reflection and space just to let what needs to come up without any kind of judgment, with that complete compassion.
Yeah.
But yes, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you.
It's been incredible. I said, I'm sorry I've kept you so long.
All right, I'm gonna get my dinner now.
Yeah, you can have your dinner now. Sorry.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
but that was brilliant, Mike. But thank you. And as I said, if anyone wants to get in touch with Mike, then contact him through his Instagram, send him a DM. and he'll get back to you super quick.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Everybody have
Take
a
care.
wonderful night.
All
Take care
right.
and see
Bye
you
bye.
again soon. Take care. Bye. Bye.